This is Eric Mwathe for the weekend of October 12th, 2013. We are looking at the markets having closed here with the Dow up 111 points, Nasdaq up 31, and the S&P 500 up 10 points in what was a very volatile and quite frankly a very confusing week for most of us. And there's nothing wrong in saying that. Now, the market was down early on in the week and seemed there was going to be more bloodshed, but the market had such a nice bounce and closing at the highs of the day today. The Dow up 111 for the week. The Nasdaq was slightly down about 15 points or 0.42%. The Dow was down for the week. Actually, scratch that. The Dow was up 164 points or 1.9%. And the S&P 500 for the week was up 12.7 or 0.75%. So very nice close after down open to the week. So surprisingly, some stocks are still doing well. Take a look at this idea here before we go to the charts, and this is for SAVE. This stock was up today about 20%. I issued an alert when the stock was breaking out early in the year, somewhere around here. So ever since that alert to subscribers, stock has done well, and I'm surprised to see it continue breaking out again. So this one has been doing well. Let's take a look at another one here. SolarCity was up 25% this week. I issued an alert for subscribers about a week ago, Thursday ago, when it was moving above this $37 area. So it's done well. The daily shows our entry. Our entry was when the stock was attempting to move out of this range. I sent an alert to subscribers and I told them about that wedge forming. So that's been a nice mover there. And also the RSI looked like it was going to break out. That's why we were looking at this one as an entry. And it has done well since a week ago when I sent out that alert. There's another one that has done well this week, a speculative play, just to show you that this market still has stocks moving. ALTI. Now, I issued an alert Thursday about a week ago for this one. So somewhere around here when it was breaking out at 303, I think was the about here, 303 last Thursday. And since then it's up about 115%. So this one has moved well for subscribers. Anybody who took me up on that speculative play has seen a nice move this week on that stock. Let's take a look at the daily here. Our buy point was from this breakout right there. Actually, we came into the stock a little bit late, but like I told subscribers, this thing still had upside because I thought it was going to break out there out of this RSI wedge. And this wedge type formations do produce massive moves. As you can see, stock has moved from about $3 all the way to $7 only in about 5 trading sessions. So this market is still producing winning stocks, surprisingly. All right, let's take a look at what the markets look like on the charts here. And we begin with the Nasdaq weekly. The Nasdaq was slightly down, but still remains very constructive. Found support at the 10-week moving average. That's good. If we take a look at the Nasdaq from a daily chart, actually let me bring back my own annotations here. See the daily for the Nasdaq. I talked about 2 days ago that the bounce here seemed to be constructive. Why? Because this has been an area where the market has been finding support. Very, very nice entry points on where to find support in this market since late 2012. As you can see, every bounce has been successful off that level. Every bounce has been nice entry point. In fact, very precise entry points there. A nice entry point again there. Actually, somewhere around there, which is this low. Very nice entry point. Nice entry point there, which was this congestion here, and also recently here. And more importantly, take a look at how the market, as far as the Dow the Nasdaq is concerned, bounced off the 50-day moving average there, also bounced off support from this previous break point. So there was a breakout here. So what the market has done over the last couple of weeks was come to this channel top lines here, over here, and then all the way back to test that break point and just had a nice bounce. Surprisingly, the market is doing very well. Yesterday we saw a very big move in the market because the Nasdaq slashed back above 50 on its daily RSI. Now, to explain what the Dow is doing, let's take a look at, this is the Dow weekly chart. Notice what the Dow is doing, and I want to explain this. See that the Dow, from a weekly standpoint, the RSI seems to be finding support here. So earlier this week, I spoke about the market slashing below 50 on the weekly, and yet somehow the market had such strength it managed to move back above 50. That's a very strong sign of intent. But what I want to point out here is I want to explain that RSI support. So what the chart I showed you, and I'm going to go back to it in a second, is what the market is doing here is it's been bouncing off this level since August 2011, this low here on the Dow weekly RSI, support there. Later on there will be support on that line again. So this line, the black line, has been support. So recently we moved below this line, back above it. Earlier this week we were slashing below that line, and we were also moving below 50, the 50 level line on the RSI somewhere here on the Dow. So it looked to me like the market was going to have a bigger week down, but seems like the market recovered, and now we are closing exactly at that line. We are back below that. We are trading at that line. So there are two scenarios going into the new week. We are either going to blast out of this range with this green arrow here. This market could move higher, which would confirm that this black line has been support and continues to be support on the RSI, or this line could now become resistance in the market, and we might get the next move being in the market might be low. So this black line, which I'm about to show you on the Dow weekly RSI, could be something to watch. So let's go back to that chart, and you can see what I was trying to explain is this line here, which has been support. Here it broke down, went above it, now back to that line. So what I'm thinking here is there's a possibility that this could be an entry point to the upside. All right, and markets are very confused. So this could be an entry point for a nice move above that level, or this line now has become RSI resistance, and we get that move below that line and then back below the 50 level on the RSI. It remains to be seen, but that's how I'm looking at it. Also, there's a blue line. Take the highs there, connect those highs there. So this blue line that I'm showing here has also been giving information. So we're either going to recapture back above this blue line or stall. And I know it's kind of hard to explain, but it's almost the same thing as the black line. But if we move above this level here on a weekly RSI, this is going to be very strong indication that this market is going to be next going to take out these highs that it has had going back to July of this year. So on this chart, you'll also notice that there were a couple of nice points here. The Dow managed to hold the 33-week moving average. It also managed to hold this area which has been resistance over the last couple of weeks, and so it has held previously at that level there. It held there a couple of weeks ago, and this week this was the low right there. So let me take that off. So this red line shows an area where the market has been finding buyers, and this week they did not disappoint. Market found buyers exactly at that level, and you see that the Dow closed with the price back above the 10-week moving average. So this week's action was very confusing, but net you can say it was bullish action because you had a washout and a market rebounding very strongly. So we'll see whether the market is going to peak, which direction it's going to go, whether it's going to break out back above the black line or it's going to have RSI resistance pointing that this is time to get out of the market for short-term shorting opportunities. So let's take a look at what's next here and go to the Dow Daily. Now the Dow Daily has been bouncing off this level here on the RSI, this blue level here that I'm showing on the daily, which happens to be connecting to the lows of December, November timeframe of 2012. This low here was that nice entry point there. We've bounced off this level once with a double bottom there, which was this low, and again we touched this precisely back at that level, and the market is bouncing. Today we see the Dow having a nice decent up day. Why? Because it moved its RSI back above 50. So if you take a look also, you see that there's price support around this general area here, and this support has held. And also don't forget, and this is critical, the fact that this market has found buyers precisely at the 200-day moving average, and now we are trading at the 50-day moving average. So one can argue that we have a market that is going to confuse most of us, because it's trading, found support at the 200-day and now back to a declining 50-day moving average. So this could be indication that we are going to be range bound, given the fact that we have a declining 50-day moving average and an upward trending 200-day moving average. But net, I would say this has been positive. This market found support precisely where you'd expect it to find support. So this is a healthy market as of right now. Let's go to the Dow Transports Weekly, and you see that they also managed to find support on this trend line here. This line held at the lows. We touched that line and bounced. This the Dow Transport also closed positive for the week, so we'll see what happens next week. They have an opportunity now of breaking out. We'll see whether they can break out, or if we still have resistance coming from this RSI top lines on the weekly. So this weekly RSI level, for this market to move higher, it needs to break out above those weekly resistance line. So the market does need to take that out and break out above that level if it's to continue moving higher. Otherwise, it could stall, and you could see that this market eventually finds the resistance there, and eventually we do head lower. So actually we ended exactly at this red line of RSI top lines, which I'm going to draw again just for clarification. So this level has yet to be breached to the upside. So the market is still in no man's land, but good action because we've closed back above the 10-week moving average. Let's take a look at the daily here for the transport, and you can see we were expecting some kind of support coming from this RSI level here. This blue shaded area that I'm drawing has been very critical in finding support in this market going back to late 2012. This low was this low on the line. We bounced off this line there, which was this low. We would bounce off this line here, which was this low here. We bounced off this general area, it was that low, and now we are kissing that and bouncing off that level. Very nice. Okay, so back above the 50-day moving average right there. So this is a healthy market. We held the 50-day, nice market. So who knows how far we go, but to me that seems like a market, if I take all my opinions out, seems like a very strong market, one that could go higher. I want to switch here and go to the S&P 500 weekly. S&P 500 ended the week back above the 10-week moving average, which is good. A good sign of a market that wants to move higher. Very nice support at the 10-week moving average. We'll see what happens, but that is constructive short term. Take a look at the daily here for the S&P 500, and we see that support has been at this level here. This blue level that I'm showing here has been support for the S&P 500 recently, ever since it broke out here, which was this low here in November 2012. It's been very nice entry points for this market here, which was this level. This support was that low, and then this general support level here happened to yield a nice low there. We would recapture that level there, which was this lows, and you see we just captured that level again. So this could be where this market eventually gradually makes new highs over the next couple of weeks. That's very possible. Now let's take a look at the hourly chart just for the sake of see what we're going to see beginning of the week, and it is not. So there was a break level here there was a break level here. So we broke below that level. So this becomes an area to watch. Draw a straight line off that, which is this blue line. We've been rejected once here before, there, and we see we are trading precisely at that level. So going into Monday, this could be an area of resistance on an hourly basis. We'll see what happens. I want to switch gears and go here to the VIX, because I think the VIX, quite frankly, could be telling us that the market is healthy and that the bulls have the upper hand. Why? Because the VIX is back below this $16 area. Now, going back about 1 year ago, the VIX has been a good tell, and I've spoke about this throughout the week, that every time the VIX has stalled, let me see whether I have the right, every time the VIX would stall at that blue line, was a nice time to get back in the market, which was that high there. Resistance at that level, nice time to get back in the market there. Resistance here, nice time to get back in the market. Eventually we would break this trend line there, so that was a sell point for the VIX, buy point for the market there. This was resistance here, buy point for the market there, and also you see that now we moved above that level and back below it, so that could be a sell, which means this is time to get back in the market. As far as the VIX is concerned, if you take a look at the VIX weekly, early on in the week when the market was at the lows, the VIX was breaking out. The VIX was breaking out above 1890, this weekly closing high. So the VIX was showing very strong momentum to the upside, but this has failed. So this breakout failed above 1890. That's not good for the VIX. And also notice that on the weekly, now we have what seems like a double top as far as the VIX is concerned. So this to me seems like an indication that the market is healthy. Now, I have to always be open to the idea that the market is trying to play games here, because if the VIX breaks out above this line here and also back above 1890, then maybe this market is still going to go down. But for now, given the information in front of us, one cannot argue with what you see. And this tells me that the market is not bearish, that the market actually wants to move higher. I know this is surprising, but this is what the market is saying. Let's take a look at the financial space. A look at the BKX, and let's begin with the weekly here. And the weekly, you see that early on in the week we were breaking below this support level here, right there, but we held, and we also closed back above the 10-week moving average. So very interesting support there. We seem like we were breaking down there, but the market did bounce back. Maybe the best way to show you from a daily view. The daily had shown a break. This was supposed to be either a break point for this market, and early on in the week we were breaking below it, but somehow this market has figured a way to move back above that level. Okay, this general blue area here has been held, good support, but now we come into resistance. We come into resistance because the last resistance was at the 50-day moving average, and now we are back at the 50-day moving average, which is declining. So a declining 50-day moving average could be resistance for this market, and trading above the 200-day and maybe resistance at the 50-day could suggest a market that is going to be range bound. Also, my RSI work shows me that on the daily there could be some kind of resistance here. That blue line was resistance recently there, so this could also be resistance. So you know what surprised me, given the daily chart here and also the hourly charts, that the market finds resistance at the beginning part of next week. That is a possibility. Okay, let's take a look at the IYR, and we begin with the daily. Now the daily for the IYR shows that it bounced off the 50-day moving average here. So it hugged the 50-day moving average here, and breaking out of this, if you take the highs of that daily closing high, draw a straight line, we seem to be above that level there. So that might be a change in direction here, but now we also have, eventually we are going to have to contend with this 200-day moving average. But I would say net this is a nice looking support level, having seen that early on in the week I actually thought this thing was breaking down. If I show you the weekly, see what the weekly for the real estate was showing. Early on in the week it looked like we were breaking below this 10-week moving average. We were trading somewhere around here, but at the end of the week we seem to have held back above the 10-week moving average. So not a lot of information here, but it seems like by the end of the week this market seemed to have constructed some of the negative looking chart setup. Early on in the week we were breaking this trend line here. It looked like this was going to be a very bearish situation, but the market has held back above that level. Very constructive, actually, surprisingly holding very well. This market has been very resilient and continues to be resilient. Let's take a look at the XHB, and on the daily, support has been held in this general area here. This blue area has been support on the RSI, and you see we bounced off this level here and started to move higher. Also bounced off the 200-day moving average. So we found support at the 200-day moving average and also at the 50-day moving average. So right now, very constructive action. We'll see whether it's going to continue moving higher or not. But given that chart, I would say that's a very constructive looking chart. Let's take a look at the oil services sector, the OIH, and you can see that this is either a breakout setup here on the RSI. So this is either a breakout here, or eventually this is going to be a stall point. So like I said, early on in the week these charts were looking very different. Early on in the week this had already shown resistance, was turning down here, but we end the week positive. So this thing is seeming like it wants to break out. We need to watch that, because if it's breaking out, we do want to have some representation in that energy space. On the weekly for the OIH here, this has been a level of resistance here. So this is a very critical area. We are either going to break out and have a very strong move here, or we might eventually just stall at that RSI level, which has been resistance, and this could eventually still be resistance if we move back below that. Last time we tried to break out was here, which was this level here, and we had this sell-off here. So let's see whether this is going to be either a breakout situation, or maybe we stall around that level. On the daily, we go into the daily time frame, we see that we seem to be bouncing off this. It's very hard for you to see, but there seems to be support here on the daily. If we take the lows on the daily, it bounced precisely at the daily support level on the RSI, hence it's moving higher. This is one that I'm watching to see where this market has momentum to the upside. I want to take a look at what crude oil is doing here. Let's take a look at the weekly to see how it closed. It still closed lower for the week, and I think the close here for crude oil is tricky. Why? Because it closed with the RSI slightly above 50. To me, this is not very encouraging, because next week if we slide below 50, we might have a big down week. So that's the concern there in terms of that sector of the market. As far as the daily is concerned, not too much information here, but finding support precisely where you'd expect you to find support at this blue level here. This was a nice entry point there, which was this low. So we come back to that level and we seem to be holding. So we'll see whether this 1 or 2 level can hold. If this 1 or 2 level breaks down, then we're going to move below 50 on the weekly RSI. Might suggest that the next move for crude oil is for it to test this 200-day moving average. Let's take a look at where the USO closed on the weekly. The USO weekly also shows that it still remains below the 10-week moving average, which is not very strong. And also, this could continue being a bearish situation, because this could continue breaking there and also could move below 50 on the weekly. So next week, let's see what happens in terms of the crude oil market. If it doesn't hold these levels, it's going to have a big down week, because it's going to be moving below that 50 level. Just for the sake of color, take a look at this ERY, 3 times short energy space, and this thing has been stalling on the RSI daily. This level here, this blue level here that I'm showing with the RSI, has been money in terms of going short this instrument. It was time to short this instrument there when it stalled there, which was those highs there. It stalled here recently, ideal short point, sell point there. It stalled here recently, which is this area. Stalled here recently, which is this high, and stalled here recently, which is that high. So maybe this doesn't look very strong, so maybe that energy space could bounce next week. I don't know, but this chart looks very weak. Let's take a look at Steel. Now this is the steel market here. SLX seems to be breaking out on a weekly chart here, just under $46. That seems to be a breakout based on this weekly closing high there. So this thing is starting to move. So watch this space of the market. Could be a space that could over time creep to the upside. You have a crossover between the 10-week moving average, the 33-week moving average. You also see that as of right now, without knowing what next week brings, seems to be that the RSI is trying to break out right there. So this is a nice one, I'm not saying it's a very strong looking chart. It does not meet my minimum requirements, but it seems to be constructive to the upside there. Something we need to watch. But I need to take a look at the daily, because I did take a look at the daily earlier. And from the daily, it looks very constructive. You have a crossover between the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. This thing has had multiple breakouts, very successful. Nice entry there with a breakout, nice breakout entry there, and recently a nice breakout entry there, which has been tested a couple of times here and here, which held. So maybe the next time it breaks out on the daily above this level, it could be indicating that it wants to move higher. So that looks to me like a decent enough looking setup. But something, that's one area of the market we need to watch. I look at the hourly, and I noticed that the hourly not very strong as far as I could tell, because this was the break point there. So that was a sell point at that level, which is the highs there. So what the market has done is come back to this break point there, draw a straight line. You see, if we stall at that level, then the next leg, this hourly chart, is going to be down. So, it's something we need to watch, but the weekly honestly does look encouraging, especially if it can hold above this $45.80 area, 45.8, somewhere around there. Seems to be breaking out. So that's an area of the market we need to watch. Let's take a look at another metal here. Let's take a look at copper. And I was wanting to look at the daily for the CU, and seems to be holding support here at the 50-day moving average. Does that mean it's going higher? I don't know. But, that's how you start building a chart. So this probably might turn out to be a bottoming process. And I know some people might argue that this is left shoulder, right shoulder, head there. And so you have your inverted head and shoulders formation, and maybe the next move is higher. Needless to say, seems to be a decent looking chart here. Of course, if it breaks down the road, if this support level here breaks down, then lower prices are going to be coming here. But it seems to be on the daily that there seems to be some level of constructive price action there. Let's take a look at the EWZ. Take a look at Brazil here. Actually, this is a Brazilian daily, the actual Brazilian daily chart, and it seems to be finding support at the 50-day moving average there. So maybe Brazil wants to rally. Let's take a look at the EWZ. And what I want to show the EWZ, I had told subscribers, and I'm telling you now, that it needs to break out above 47.32, which is this daily closing high. If this thing can break out above this level here, now this level has been critical because this level here has been support previously, was support there, was a nice entry point there, support there. We broke down there, and ever since we broke down there, this has turned into resistance. So if we break out above 47.32, any breakout above that, and also going to be breaking out above the 200-day moving average, I think this thing could move higher. So let's watch this level here. It closed above it. It closed above that level, closing at 49. So seems to be a breakout here. Any further movement here is indicating to me that Brazil could be trying to come back after a couple of terrible months here. But this is the same level here. So this was support there, support there, support there. We broke down, came here, closed precisely at that level. This has been resistance, but now we see that we are closing above that. So maybe this thing is coming back to life. Hope that makes sense. So just to rehash that, so this has been resistance, so I mean support, 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 support there. This became a sell point, has resisted to close above that level, but this week we see it moving back above that level there. So maybe something is happening, but markets are always tricky. Take a look at this black line on the RSI top lines, or take a look at this level here on the RSI right there. It's been a level of resistance, so this market has not yet proven itself, but I would take that it's trying to recapture that level here. So maybe it's trying to build, and it might take time before it becomes a really powerful moving stock. Let's take a look at the French market here. And the reason is because I want to show you this. This is a market here that is trading at new highs. So this market is trading at new highs. The only problem I see with this new move to new highs by the French market here is the RSI. So you have higher highs, and yet the technical picture is not following through. So that to me is a red flag as of right now. It's making higher highs, but I'm not too convinced that that's a powerful breakout to new highs. On the weekly, you see that it's also breaking out in price here. Weekly breakout to new weekly closing highs, and yet you see that the RSI has been stalling at this level here, and we still remain stalling at that level. So the French market is breaking out, but really I'm not sure that's a positive or a very strong breakout. Let's take a look at the FTSE daily, and the FTSE daily bounced off the 50-day moving, the 200-day moving average. It bounced off the 200-day moving average here, just like it did here, and also like it did here. So maybe this is when it starts moving higher. We'll see. Closed at just above 50, so maybe Monday we might open with a down week here with a move back below 50. Who knows? But I like the fact that it's holding that 200-day moving average. That's not bad. That's okay. I want to take a look at the FXI. But before I do that, let's take a look at the Chinese market, which ended the week just above this trend line there. So this could be the beginning of something. Who knows? Or maybe this RSI level here has been resistance, and maybe we come into the new week with a move back below that RSI resistance here. But trying to move out of this range, not really that positive, that strong of a move. It's in that general area, but trying to move out of this RSI or price channel top lines right there. So that could be the beginning of something as far as the Chinese market is concerned. Let's take a look at the next market here. Let's take a look at the RSX, the Russian market. And what I was really surprised to see that this here is also breaking out, just like the silver is breaking out. This instrument seems to be breaking out on a weekly basis. You have a very strong crossover there now, surprisingly holding above this breakout level. So anybody who wants to own emerging markets could start looking at this level, because maybe they are breaking out. Also the RSI seems like it wants to break out there. Hasn't broken out yet, but seems like it wants to do so. So let's watch that $29 area, which is this weekly closing high there. If it stays above that, then it means that this breakout is still healthy. If it moves back below that $29 area, then this breakout is stalling. So that's how it looks like. Let's take a look at the RSX daily here to see what we get. RSX daily, I know the video is getting a little bit lengthy here, but you see that it hasn't broken out on the daily, but I like the fact that the moving averages are pointing to the upside. The 200-day, 50-day moving average pointing higher. We'll see what happens. It's not a bad looking chart, but take a look at the daily, and you start seeing that maybe the daily is telling us, or the hourly is telling us this. After breaking down here, so this was going to be resistance or an area to watch, and you can see the market stalled right there. So maybe it's already given us a short-term sell signal as far as the hourly is concerned. So for the rest of the video, I'm going to let that be for subscribers, and I'm going to talk about the stocks that I'm watching this week. So I'm going to have new stock picks, new breakouts, so you might want to check that out. And I'm going to be talking about Apple. I'm going to be talking about some entry points on other markets. Maybe I'm going to touch on a little bit on Tesla, things like that. So, and I'm going to talk about gold, and I'm going to talk about our strategy on gold, which has been positive this week. We had a nice move on our plays on gold. So gold has been doing well for us in terms of short-term Our entry was to short gold last week, and it has paid off. So remember to subscribe if you want to watch the rest of the video, and also to find my latest absolute best stock picks for now. So enjoy the weekend. For those of you who are not subscribers, and for those of you who are subscribers, let's continue on here.